Hey everyone, this is Jackie with ABC Creations. I am bringing you a video on how I did the knockdown stitch behind one of my logos. And this knockdown stitch was for the fleece or Sherpa blankets that I did in a group, and I showed off the photo and everyone was wondering how I did it. So I'm going to go ahead and just dive in and show you how I did it. I know most of you are not working with the exact same software. I currently work in Hatch Embroidery Digitizer, which is Hatch 2, and this is the logo that I did and showed in the group. Now, I need to do the exact same type of logo. It just has a different verbiage inside, which is this one here that says Green Oaks, established 1960. And so I'm going to put a knockdown stitch behind this, just like the one you see here for Libertyville, and I'm going to show you how I do that. So for the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to place so that I know where to copy um, an outline a little bit out past the edges of this triangle here. And then that way I will know how to fill in the design. So I'll show you how I do this now. So I click on the triangle here and I go to my create layout and I choose create outline or offsets. Now this is already set to what my other one was for the Libertyville, which is a 2.554 millimeter offset, that's about how big it's going to give it of an outline away from the actual object that I clicked on. And I'm going to make it green so it's easy to see. So I'm going to leave this here and say okay. And you can see it's clearly put in two outlines. I don't necessarily need this one right now, but we'll go ahead and we'll leave that in there for right now. And then I also am going to need outlines around these guys here because this is what's going to fill it in. So I'm going to click on all of the letters for Green Oaks and for everything else here. So I need it for these lines. I need it for all of the trees. So I'm just going to basically hold down my shift key, go all the way to the bottom because everything needs to have an outline, and click it. The reason you don't want to do all this together is because it'll do exactly like it did here with the triangle. It'll only do this outer perimeter here and not the inner stuff. So I do the outside perimeter first, and then I go in and do all of these things together. So it gives it an outline inside here off of these. So I'm going to show you again now that everything is highlighted here and the boxes are black. I go to create outline and offset. Again, leave my offset at 2.54 in green. And if I want to, I can change this to red to see a different color and say okay. And now you can see here that it has created an offset in here for everything. And sometimes what I'll do is clean this up just a little bit. And what I mean by that is I will connect these two together by basically using this outline to replicate over here into this one. So that way there's not two separate pieces. And again, sometimes I'll do the same over here, just connect this to this so that there is no gap in between here as well. And that's exactly what I did on, if you can see this one right here. Another thing you could do is if you've already done one, you can copy and paste it if it's the same or similar, but I'm not going to do that. So this is how I did this. And I'm just going to go in here and clean it up a bit. So I'm going to click on this one here and I'm going to reshape. And you can see my nodes are all here. So basically what I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to make this all a part of over here. So I'm going to drag it out as far as the logo work. And then I'm just going to have to sit here and tweak it a little bit. So putting in, some new nodes here and there. So like here's a rounded node. We can put in a more straightened node here and kind of drag it up a little bit. Just kind of play with this and work with it a little bit until you get pretty close or similar to whatever's already there. And it may take a little work. This is part of digitizing. There's no software out there that's going to do this exactly for you. So this is what makes your work stand out from everyone else's. Actually, I'm going to delete that one. We already have one here. So once I put in this guy, it should round out just a little bit there. There we go. And like I said, these really don't have to be that perfect. You are literally not going to see very much of this on the blanket because you're going to do it in the exact same color of whatever blanket you're using. Oh dear goodness, there we go. All right, and we'll put, oh, let's see, let's put one of these maybe somewhere around here, and we'll arch this one up. Okay, so now if I were to deselect this, and if I were to go into here, which I'll probably clean this one right here up a little bit, and select the original outline it created and delete it, you can see I'm down to now one piece here that all has, you know, something in it. Now see how this, you know, basically is down here, and I've got this guy up here. So I'm going to edit this because um, I don't really like the way it looks. I think it's not uniform. So I'm going to drag this down to about here, and I'll probably remove these guys just to see what that looks like. And I think that looks a little bit more uniform and in line with the design. And you know, you can always just bring it up a hair if you need to kind of make it look a little bit better. And then again up here, you know, you can see that everything kind of goes with the flow from this line arching, and you've got this big dip here. So you can do a couple of different things here. You can either delete out a node and see how it looks. You can add in more nodes. There's all kinds of things you can do here. I think since there's a space here, I am going to dip it in just a little bit there to give it kind of a natural flow. Okay, so again, like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect. You're not going to see this whole thing anyway. And then on the previous one, I did also go ahead and connect, you know, these guys here as well. So I'm going to go ahead and do that as well. I'm going to click here. I'm going to take this rounded node, and I'm going to drag it all the way out over here to the end. And now, you know, just keep in mind that these are really roughly just for cutting out. So actually I could probably do something like this and you'd still see it here. Let's see if I do this to give you an idea. Because what I'm going to show you next is basically we're going to just fill this all in and cut out these shapes. And maybe I'm doing it, you know, a little bit more of a more difficult or complex way, but this is the only way that I know how to do these. So this is how I'm going to do it. All right, so, and you can delete these if you want or keep them in there. Okay, just to show you that this connects to this and yada yada. So basically, you know, what we're going to do is I'm going to create a fill over this whole thing, and I'm going to use this outer outline here to do that. And then what I'm going to do is go in here, and I'm going to literally cut out a hole in here from this green line to this red line, from this green line to these red lines, and so on and so forth. And all that's going to be left behind is going to be that background knockdown, and then I'm going to show you how I set up the parameters for that as well. So let's go ahead and get started on the fill, since I like the way this looks already as it is. As you can see, it's kind of similar to this one. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the left hand and say digitize a closed shape. I want it completely closed and I want it filled up here, you can see. And I'm going to come in here, and all I'm going to do is literally fill this all in by right click here, left click here. This one's a left click because it's a straight line. Right click for the curve in the corner, left click for the start of the straight line, left click for the end, right for the curve, left again for the start, left for the end, right for the curve, left for the start. And now since I'm at the end, since I started right here, I can literally just click enter and it fills it all in, as you can see here. Now the blankets are black, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take this number 72 here and I'm going to color it in black. And then I'm going to basically now turn on the true view, or I should say turn it off. This is true view. It's showing me exactly what the stitches would look like. By turning off true view, I can see all those stitches underneath. Can you guys see that there? So now what I want to do is in this black, making sure it's highlighted over here at the bottom right, I'm going to go into the same digitize over here on the left, and I'm going to say digitize holes. And I'm going to use, since it's on the black, I'm going to use the lines for the green and the red to dictate where I'm going to cut this hole out. So I'm going to start here and take the green line all the way down to here. And like I said, these do not have to be 100% perfect because you're not going to see the whole thing. The closer the better, but it doesn't have to be exact. So I'm just going to follow the red line, you know, pretty much to the curves, right clicking for a curve, left clicking for a point or a straight shape. These will be right clicks here. This will be a left click. And then if you mess up, you can just hit the backspace button to get rid of a node you just put on. And now I'm at the end, so I just hit enter twice and it'll cut that out. And you can see right there. And if I turn my true view back on, you can see it has now cut out the shape. So now I'm going to turn off the true view again, and I'm going to move to the next section that I want to cut out, which can be anywhere. You guys can choose wherever you'd like to start. You can do it, you know, right here. I'll zoom out. You can do it right over here. You can do it here. You can do it down here, whatever you guys choose. So I'm going to go ahead and come over here. Again, I'm going to make sure I'm highlighted on the black. Tell it to digitize holes. And again, if you have to zoom in, go for it. You can change the colors to see better. Again, I'm doing green and red. So that would be this line down to the red all the way across to here. And then we're going to come over the humps to the trees. And now on more simplistic shapes that you want the knockdown behind the entire thing, like say it's a name, you should be able to just click on the entire thing, click that offset like I said, and make it a fill, and put it behind the design, and then just, you know, tweak the parameters. This one's a little bit more complex, I will say that, but I figured this would be a great idea to show you so you can kind of play with it a little bit. And I'll show you on a name that I have as well shortly after here, just for a quick second, just so you can get the idea of how more simplistic it is when you have less of a detailed design. It's a much easier process. Oh, and see right there, I went past that green line. So my green line is right there. I'm just going to hit enter twice and it cut it out right there. All right, so I'm going to move on to the other side here, and we're going to do the same thing. Click on the black, digitize holes. And I'm going to follow my green line, which starts right here, roughly, to the red, across to the trees. And actually, I'm probably going to do this, even though it's not there. I'm going to do it anyway, because I think it'll look better. It'll match the other side a little bit more closely. All right, up to the red. And again, just following all the curves of the red. Okay, and double click or double enter, and you get an outline cut out there. All right, now I only have about 2 to 3 more here to go. I've got one here, one down at the very bottom, and one over here. So we'll go ahead and finish these up. Again, click on the black, digitize holes, green to red. And every time you click on a node when you're designing, it does create a needle mark spot. So you do want to be careful with how many you place, just to keep it, you know, with less punctures if you don't want, you know, the markings. Okay, now this one right here, actually I just noticed it did not come out past this period for the EST. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to move it probably to about here. And as you can see, this one kind of goes straight down right there. So I'm going to kind of do the same thing over here. I want to make sure that it's pretty uniform with the other one. Right, and then up the green, which again brings me to my endpoint. Double click, and there we have it. And I'll come back in here later and make sure you know, that pulls all the way out past there. And then there's a tiny little one in here. We're going to click on the black. We're going to say digitize holes, and I'm going to go from green to red. And this should be here to here, and that's the last one there, and one more. So the only one I have left is now right here. So we're going to do this one last time, digitize holes. And I'm going to come in here and do green to red, straight across, creating it. Oh, a little bit past the green there, just about right there. And then this is going to kick all the way back to my starting point. So I'm going to double enter, and that's the last cutout. So now you can see we have this this nice black um, fill. And right now it is currently, if I turn on True View, it's currently on top of everything. So clearly that's not what we want. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this and I'm going to throw it all the way up at the beginning to number 1. And you can see it just went behind everything, which is perfect. That's what we want. And I'm going to take out those original 2 outlines here, this the one on the outer edge and the one on the inner edge. I'm going to delete those. And then I'm going to delete out this red outline that we did, which is probably at the bottom of my work here. All the red outlines, I'm going to go ahead and delete those as well. And now we are left with the fill for the background. And this is now the only point that we have to tweak the entire back knockdown. So this black is now going to be our knockdown stitch. So now with the black, you're going to click on it and you're going to want it to be a tatami stitch. And down at the bottom here on my screen for Wilcom Hatch, there has a spacing and a length for this, the top stitches. This is not the underlay, this is the top stitches. And I'm going to set these to, the length should be, I'm sorry, the stitch spacing should be 0.85. And when you hit enter, you can see that the density has lightened up quite a bit here. And I'm going to change the length to a 4.3 millimeter. So now my top stitches are set. This is a great semi-tight fill for very high pile materials. If you're doing something like a beanie, you could probably get away with, you know, even a larger number than 85 and open those fibers up just a little bit for less stitching if you want. But personally for this logo, I need to have it this way because I'm using a fleece blanket. Then in my software, I go to the underlay. Now the underlay for mine is set fine at tatami. The stitch length for underneath should be a 4 millimeter with a spacing of 3. I'm okay with that. And the pull comp was fine at 17 and the stitch angle was also fine at 15 degrees. So it is stitching at a 15-degree angle, so that way I'm not up and down or left and right with the fabric, and then you don't have to worry about the stitches sinking. So now the design logo is pretty much done with the hatch. We call it the hatch smash, or as most of you would know, the knockdown. So that's it. This is a knockdown for a very complex design. It's given it just enough on the outer edges. I think it looks great compared to the previous one I did for Libertyville. They both look identical. I think it looks great and it's going to run well. I'm going to show a photo of this later once I run it. And as I explained, I will do one of my names that we had spoken about to show you the easier way to do one of these on a full fill logo. So let's just say you're doing a name on a beanie or a logo that looks like a name on a beanie. And I'll show you what that looks like. All right, so we'll go to keychains, names, and I'll just pick this one for fun. Okay. So for all intents and purposes, let's just pretend those aren't there. We have this beautiful name and this person says, I want my name on the front of a beanie. And you're like, okay. So here's the name. Basically, all you're going to do is you're going to highlight it, the whole name, or click on it if you use a font. And we're going to do the exact same process we did before, which is we're going to go to creating an outline. And we're going to create that outline with the same 2.54 millimeter outline. And I'm going to change it to a color I can see. And it doesn't really matter. You can do red, whatever. Let's just say the beanie was red, so we're going to do red. Say okay. Here is the outside. We're going to click on it, and we want this to now be a fill design. So fill it in and just rearrange it so it's behind your lettering, and that's pretty much going to be your knockdown. So now you just need to tweak the parameters, and like I said, we're going to make this at a 0.85 and this at a 0.3. for the length. And then we are going to check the underlay. We only need the tatami at a 4-3 in normal. And the pole comp, we can just change that back to a 17 and a 15-degree stitch angle. So this now would give you a beautiful name on any garment with a pile or anything that you want to kind of stop from shifting around or the material from moving. I hope you guys enjoyed this quick tutorial. I hope it made a lot of sense between complex logos versus easy. And I hope to see a lot more of you posting out some knockdown stitch designs. Let me know in the comments below what you think, and I look forward to hearing from you. Have a great day, guys.